Good day everyone, Dr. Blob here, and it is time once more to analyze Arknights ships, chosen by my community. For those who don't know how this go, hi! Sorry if you thought this is actually related to ships. I will be analyzing the ships depending on these factors: background, lore, and personality, focusing on the couple as if they will be interested in a relationship and how probable it will be, yet not forcing a resolution. Depending on my analysis, there can be three possible outcomes. Can see it, when the couple just couldn't work as it is. Friendship, when the couple could be close but not too close. Gut chemistry, when the couple shows signs of actually being functional. However, this doesn't automatically make them a romantic couple, as they could be friends with good chemistry. Thus, the tiebreaker will be the ship of approval, when a couple is so plausible even the developers hint at them being an item. As always, reminding everyone that this is for fun, and if you want to see your couple analyzed, I might have gone over them in a previous video. If not, well, there's always next year. So with that out of the way, let us begin with those couples I have already talked about in previous videos. We then ask for Sharp and Deacon Breher. There hasn't been that much development between these two, but Deacon files do mention her asking for Sharp, so at the very least, she still holds him in high esteem. Flame Legacy 3-3 asked for Viviana Droste and Margaret Nerl. TLDR, Viviana is clearly interested, but she might want to make her intentions known for Nerl to take the hint. Bobby Kenya asked for Nightingale and Shining. Same as previous entry, no new info, so all I can say is the same thing as I said last time. The followers are still a mess. Soli asks for Yato and Norcorn. Just talk to her! Roland Black Silence asks for Vigil and Penance. At first, I was gonna say that there wasn't much information due to Leon Tuso being in a coma most of the event, but we did get to see something we didn't have in Il Siracusano: Penance's feelings for the new mayor. I don't like to jump into conclusions, but I do want to point out that 1. They now seem to be living together, though that could be shouted out as having a sibling relationship, and 2. How Penance acted quite protective of him while he was out, specifically how she almost seemed jealous anytime Dimitri come around, though that can also be due to her not wanting the Mafia to get their hands into politics once more. So while there wasn't that much new information, the quality did make me believe that, while still not clear, these two do have good chemistry. Sadly, I cannot say if it is romantic or familiar. Next two are mine, since I also want to participate. Why two? Because my video. First, I would like to revisit Irene and Lumen. Thanks to Path of Life, we were able to have more interaction between these two, and see that they have kept in touch despite the distance, showing Jordi's growth as an Inquisitor, as well as showing how much Irene has been of help for him during his development. The closeness is evident as they talk without an issue as well-known comrades in arms. So they definitely have good chemistry going on. If they wanted to, I wouldn't be surprised if they managed to form a relationship. However, I wouldn't be giving them the ship of approval for one simple reason, which is Irene and Spectre. Path of Life made a point to keep Irene and Laurentina in their respective paths during most, if not all of the story, with only one interaction between the two of them. And what an interaction it was! Not only Irene went to see Laurentina go into combat, but their talk felt far more closer than her sentences with Lumen, or even Underflow. Heck, in good Kugimiya fashion, we got this flustered mess of a reaction, much to Spectre delight. So while Irene and Jordi proved to have grown closer since it's two different navies, the same can be said for the Shark. So I'm sorry Jordi fans, but once more, the Shark wins. Now going back to the suggestions, I have Lappy asking for Irene Lavanza and Crown Slayer. I will be honest, they do look good together. The complementing aesthetics are quite nice, but that's about it. Irene is a generous boss who treats those under her like family. Ludmilla is finally part of something worth fighting for, and knows quite well how this can become a hellhole the instant Sith leader stops caring. She's not her guardian shadow, she is her Damocles sword. A reminder to not abuse her power, and that she's ready to put an end to her should she ever does so, while having very good chemistry in the starts and ends at friendship. Miku54432 asks for Leonhardt and Air Scrape. Well, there hasn't been that much development between these two. Unlike other pairs, their story ended at their introduction. Childhood friends who had been together for a while now. As of now, we know that Air Scrape holds a weapon most likely designed by Rhine Labs for field testing. And that's it for his development. Surprisingly, we do have a lot more information regarding Leonhardt. He's the one who kick-started the revolution that eventually granted all, or at least most Rimbillis, their independence from Victoria, thus making him a national hero, explaining why Air Scrape is constantly looking after Leon. He is too important for the country, but at the same time, Leon doesn't seem to care that much about it, and the only reason he doesn't avoid his chaperone is due to their history together. Personality-wise, well, they are friends. That much is obvious. But will they try to go for a relationship? I will say it wouldn't be that much different than what they already have. Traveling the land, delivering packages, and looking after each other. Technically speaking, this is what Fausto and Mephisto could have been. But due to lack of evidence, all I can do is grade these two as having good chemistry. However, mostly of the friendly kind. Martin Sousa asks for Narantuya and Aspasia Jojerias. It is hard not to see these two as the two protagonists of an old-school adventure film. The hot-blooded and bold, and the serious and stoic. So yeah, I can see why people like them together. Personality-wise, and as seen in the event, they complement each other very well. They are each other's proverbial demon and angel over the shoulder, doing what the other will not while looking after each other. I am honestly sad that they had to part ways once their adventure ended. But their meeting was what Narantuya needed in order to finally start her Kangan quest, to finally find where she belongs. So on itself, Aspasia is indeed an important individual for the young Knight's moral. Having said that, could their good rapport lead to a proper relationship? I honestly think they could. However, Narantuya will first need to find her home. And who knows, she might have already found it, and haven't noticed it just yet. So I give this to the rating of good chemistry. However, I cannot conclude if it is romantic or not, given they parted ways. If Aspasia managed to become playable though, this ranking might change in the future. Cool asks for Shu and Shenong. Clearly she was someone important to the immortal, being the one who taught her how to grow the fields. However, and unlike her sister Dusk, we are never shown how deep their bond was, as Shenong left on her own path, while Shu stayed behind, only to see her one last time. Again, she was important for Shu, but we don't know how important. Thus, I can only leave them as friends. Misha asks for Wizardel and Theresa. With new information thanks to chapter 14, and some analysis on my end, I can safely say this. There was nothing between these two. Yes, W went on a crusade for Theresa, and now holds the name she gave her with pride. However, I would like to make a distinction. What W felt and still feels, it's admiration. Theresa showed her what she thought she will never witness. Someone willing to see the goodness in her, despite everything she has done, and thus she considered her something worth fighting for. And again, Theresa was an all-loving leader, so I doubt W was any more special than any other Sarkers. If Wizardel is still fighting to keep Theresa's Babel going, it's mostly to protect her legacy, than any more intimate feeling. Thus, I can only mark them as friends. Oh my goodness, I hope I say this right. Gunara, Raihan, Ramadan, and Bibi asked for Wizardel and Amiya. This one jumped in popularity due to the aforementioned chapter 14. It could also be explained as Wizardel seeing Amiya as a replacement for Theresa, which in itself is not a healthy relationship at all, but we have more than enough evidence to see that this is not the case. If anything, Wizardel treats Amiya in a surprisingly courteous way. I mean, as courteous as Wizardel can be. A bit harsh, yet caring, keeping her distance, yet not being a stranger. Technically speaking, they are now co-rulers of the circus, so it will make sense Wizardel sees her more as an equal. Then again, this is not just any circus, this is Wizardel. She doesn't give her friendship to just anyone. Amiya, sadly, suffers from the same problem as Theresa, of being an all-loving leader, but there is more to work with. We know Amiya carries a lot, and I mean a lot, on her shoulders, and Wizardel is one of the few who actually remembers this is a child, or a very young adult depending on the timeline, with a ton on her plate. So I wouldn't be surprised if she would be the one who kept things more leveled, again treating her like an equal instead of the second coming of Theresa, which we had seen her do during the story, so the chemistry could be there. However, the last hurdle, if they could actually be a thing, is where I cannot make a proper conclusion. Not to mention, W did some things Amiya might not be too eager to forget. And despite how much information we have of them, the most important one, their interaction as co-ruler, is missing. Any information we have of them, post the Victorian arc, is by third parties and mentions, so no idea how the relationship goes once they took their respective roles. So while there could be something, I lack enough information to reach a proper verdict. So I'm sorry, but I have to leave them as friends. And I'm stretching it here. Fire-breathing turtle dragon doodler, as for Jay and Pasiomka. Not the weirdest shape I have seen, but I cannot stop wondering, how? Personality-wise, I think they could be friends. Jay isn't an intrusive guy, and it's pretty happy standing in the background, posing on her end, also enjoying silence and peace, mostly so she can read at peace. So at the very least, they could be courteous enough in each other's presence. Now going to the part if any of them will be interested, I'm not 100% sure. Yes, they could be in friendly terms, but as far as I know, they haven't met each other. So all I can say is, maybe friendship? Look, I know you will like something meatier, but you know the rules. This is as far as I can go. Johnny Johnson's as for Hildegard and Basline. I will be blunt. He saw her as his mother. Not in that way. As we see in the event and Basline files, he was instructed by Hildegard most of his life, as she saw in him a brilliant and promising young boy. This was not in preparation for him to become her voice, but rather a more important role. We don't know how much Hildegard and Liselot planned for the Witch King's return, but it was obvious they knew it will require a sacrifice, and here is where Basline comes in. The role the twins saw for him was that of a ruler. After the events of Zwillingstrom in Harvest, we have seen Basline serving as an advisor of sorts to Liselot, and she seems to take his opinion in high regard. As they are in story, I cannot say they could be anything more than family, but for those still wanting something more shippy, let's just say this. Time is a bit wonky in the lands between, so maybe when Hildegard comes out, some time might have passed, and Basline will no longer be a boy. By then, maybe something could happen. We will have to wait and see. Martin Sousan asked for Magellan and Santala, another old one. Sadly, and despite finally having an event with both of them together, most of the time was spent between Maggie and Typhon, with Santala only making sporadic appearances. I will be blunt, these two are, at the very least, on very good terms, but I wouldn't say they have good chemistry. Santala doesn't seem to care much about anything beyond her hate towards Ursus and trying to look after Sammy in her own way. Maggie, on the other hand, seems to be interested in people in general, as in trying to experience as many things as possible in order to learn as much as possible, as a good explorer would. So while they have cute interactions with one another, I can only leave them as friends. Amon asked for Ulpianus and the Last Night. I am actually surprised it took this long for this pair to be suggested. Last Night is clearly not well on the head, so dealing with him might need more than just patience from Ulpianus' part. On the other hand, Last Night trusts him enough to lend him his horse with ease, so the two of them are definitely on friendly terms. However, how much of it is more than their hate for the Seaborns is very hard to say. So for now, I can only leave them as friends. Foxy Death asks for Project Red and Frostleaf. Okay, I can see the appeal. Both former mercenaries now living a more peaceful life on the roads. Problem is, Red is not exactly good at socializing, and Frostleaf is just a bit less reserved than Red. Personality-wise, I think they could be in friendly terms. Frost is not a lupo, so she wouldn't be afraid of Red. Red on her end likes calm people, so they could be in the same room without spilling blood. Going further than that, though, will be difficult, mostly due to Red's mental state after the events of Il Veluti. If I can stretch it, this could be how these two could get closer, as Frostleaf is known for calming others in her own way, so she could be able to aid Red to work through her little existential crisis. However, that's just a maybe. As such, I cannot place them further than just friends. Samuel Patigan asks for Priestess and Oracle. How about we let Priestess explain it herself?
Intimate? I wouldn't use that term to describe our relationship. It belittles all that we have experienced together in the past, though your mind may not remember. I am sure that in the deepest recesses of your consciousness, deeper than any probe or instrument can reach, there are still traces of me.
Kojima asks for the Doctor and Texas. Yet another old one. Man, I feel nostalgic. Sad to say though, there is nothing between these two. Doctor has the standard main character charisma kind of rapport with Selenia, and she respects them as a wise friend. But that's about it. Core 81 Alpha asks for Lakera Malin and Theresa. I know where this one comes from, seeing how the Banshee Queen shows so much care for Theresa to the point of casting a spell on her to know if she ever died. But then again, she has a son, meaning there was someone who acted as her spouse. And again, Theresa is an all-loving leader, so I doubt she will choose one over the rest. She only did this once, and that was her adoptive daughter. Bardigan XPL asked for Fiametta and Enforcer. Surprisingly, this could work. I mean, they are done by canon, and neither has ever talked to one another. But personality-wise, Fia might look short-tempered and easy to anger. But that's because we have mostly seen her interacting with Mostima, who loves to troll her, and Adonai. No explanation needed. Yet when we see her interacting with other people, she is quite attentive and caring. Just look at her proud grandpa. Her short fuse is mostly due to the fact she can properly understand the Sancta link. Enforcer, on his end, is one of the few Sancta in the story who actually seems to care about what the others are feeling, be them Sancta or not. So if these two were to interact, I wouldn't be surprised if Fia would downright unload a lot of her personal grievances into Esdel, finally having a Sancta she can connect to. Esdel on his end is a very kind individual and will not often be there for Fia if needed, but that will be about it. They both are very determined on their respective missions, each looking after someone, thus having pretty much zero possibility to interact in a more serious manner. So while I think they could have great interactions, I doubt they will go beyond friends. Nya the Cat asks for Logos and Wizardel. No! Long answer. Logos actually tries to be part of something bigger than himself. If Wizardel dislikes some things, it goes boom. Granted, their banter will be precious. Not because of any possible relationship material, mind you, but because they will be constantly trying to insult the other in the most interesting way possible. Given Logos' bigger repertoire of words, I have no doubt he will be able to roast the roach in more than one way. no art needed. So, and I'm stretching it a lot here, they could be friends of the vitrolic variety, but I honestly doubt it. The 24th Colossus just chilling on a sofa asks about Amiya and Suoli. It's incredible how a single image caused such a burst in popularity for the ship. Let's get the obvious out of the way. These two have no interaction with one another, so things will be hard to go beyond that. Having said that, their personalities are a surprisingly good match. Both are gentle but determined individuals. Both are incredibly hardworking, and both know what it's like to live with huge loads on their shoulders. So I wouldn't be surprised if these two could hit it off quite well from the get-go. As friends, maybe there could be more, but the lack of interactions between these two makes it impossible for me to go further than this. If they were to actually interact, maybe I will be able to bump them up, but as it is, it's just a maybe. Z asks for Magallan and Asbestos. I can see it. Despite how abrasive Asbestos acts, she clearly warms up to those who can endure her insults. Maggie, on the other hand, seems to hold her in high regard, especially due to their shared love for exploration. Not to mention that Maggie seems to be able to tell what Asbestos truly means behind her harsh words. The latter, on her end, cares enough about Maggie to follow her suggestions, so personality and canon are on their favor. If they were to actually try something, I will say it could work. If anything, the one thing stopping them is the fact they explore for completely different reasons. Maggie does it in the search of discovery and knowledge, while Asbestos does it for the thrill. So while they could have a thing, work and preferences might get in the way. So I will say they have good chemistry. However, I don't see them in a romantic light anytime soon. Echigo Kurogane asks for Koroserum and Aroma. This is because they have the same archetype, isn't it? Obvious one out of the gate. They don't know each other, so that lowers their chances a lot. Now, going into personality, that's where it gets interesting. While one is friendly and the other is a bit sassy, they are both very hardworking and determined on their respective job, which could lead to them recognizing each other's skills. But further than that, I don't see other than good work relationship. And while there is nothing written, they do work on the line ship, so it wouldn't be surprising if they do know each other. But due to the lack of solid evidence, I'm afraid the most I can give them is friendship. Liano Valdez asks for Thorns and Widdy. Friends, just like that. Widdy is a neat freak. Thorns doesn't even care if his clothes are burning. They manage to tolerate each other in the labs due to pure stubbornness on each other's part. However, and as in the event, they are close enough that Widdy ventured a literal desert to help him. Granted, this was mostly thanks to Elysium, but the fact she still went to a dusty desert despite her distaste for dirtiness already tells us how much she cares for him. As a friend. Siemens asks for Doctor and Wishlash, also known as Sophia. As cute as they look together, I'm afraid Sophia's line is mostly a case of friendly teasing from her part. As after that, there has been absolutely no follow-up, similar content or further show of interest from her part. Not too dissimilar to what happened with Auntie T. Apple's house, so all I can do is place them into friendship. Bill the Fish, now that's a name, asks for Doberman and Diurnar. These two do have some information, yet it's all about how they carry their job as instructors than anything else. Even Sophia seems to have a similar relationship with the Bolivarian, but unlike her, Diurnar seems to have a better rapport with Doberman, mostly due to how the former does know conflict and the importance of teaching the new generation. Beyond that though, I cannot see they are that close, with Doberman constantly nagging her under the table dealings and Diurnar trying to make her more relaxed. They have good chemistry, but only in a platonic sense. If they were to be interested in a relationship though, I think they would need to work through their personal traumas first. Alec asks for the Doctor and Skadi, Alder. Considering the information revealed on Path of Life, if anything, the event shows us why is it that Skadi Alder is so interested in the Doctor, while regular Scotty only sees them as a colleague. Again, that main character report. However, it is where things get a bit of a sad turn for some, or a bone for others. If the Doctor is in fact related with the original Seaborn's creation, and them imprinting into its memory, then that means that they share a relationship of creator and creation, or most commonly known as father and child. I don't know about you, but that's too much even for me. Granted, Doctor no longer remembers this, and Scotty Alder seems to only remember her bond with them. So, maybe it could work? Our lady asks for Confessarius and Shining. She's literally trying to make him disappear. Riast is asking for Mjolnir and Maria. Why is there so much interest this year? No, just no. He is her uncle, and a very close one at that. Blood relation aside, he pretty much raised her himself. So no, in good terms, but nothing more. They're just family. At least this can't get any worse. This has been Dr. Blob. Thank you all for watching. And now you excuse me, I need some therapy myself. Oh, and stay healthy everyone.